When you're working with quadratics, you need to be able to switch back and forth between the three different forms of a quadratic equation. There's vertex form, there's standard form, and there's also factored form. And all three of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. So depending on how you want to use your quadratic equation, you have to be able to go back and forth. So this clip is all about showing you how to go from vertex form to standard form, which is a skill that might come up on a few questions in your course. So I'm going to show you an example of going from vertex to standard on the left, and then on the right you can try your own practice problem that I'll present near the end, and I'll post a solution when you're ready to look at it. So let's go ahead and have a look at our first vertex form equation. Okay, we've been given y equals 3, x plus 2 squared minus 20. That's an equation in vertex form, and we need to put it into standard form. So why would we do that? Well, this vertex form is fantastic for showing you where the vertex is. That's the maximum or minimum point of the parabola shape on the graph. It also shows you whether it's opening up or down. This is a positive number. It's a positive 3. So we know that the shape is opening up on the graph like a U. But vertex form is not so great for showing you right away where the y-intercept would be. And it's also not so good for putting it into factored form later. And factored form, as you know, shows you the x-intercepts or zeros of a quadratic. So let's begin our first step for putting this vertex form into standard form. Do you remember hearing about FOIL? Well, it's an acronym for first, outside, inside, and last. And it's just the order that we would expand this bracket. So we're going to show you how you would FOIL that bracket. I'm just going to write out the first part of the equation. Now, since this bracket is squared, it just means it's itself times itself. So I can show that like this. The same way that 2 squared is 2 times 2, x plus 2 squared is x plus 2 times x plus 2. And then I have a minus 20 left over at the end. That doesn't change. Now the part that I'm going to FOIL is these two brackets. So f is first. That means I multiply the first terms in the bracket. So these x's go together. And I'm going to show that like this. I'll keep the bracket because I'm going to need that. There's a 3 in front. So I have x times x, which is x squared. Then I come to the o, which is outside. Outside is x and 2. So I have multiply those together, I get a positive 2x. Then I come to I, which is inside. That's these two terms, 2 and x. They also multiplied together make 2x. And finally, I come to last, which is this term multiplied with this term. 2 times 2 makes a positive 4. Then I close the bracket. Don't forget the closing bracket. And I keep the minus 20. And that's my FOILing done. Let's go on to the next step. Collect like terms inside the bracket. This is a small step. I just need to put this piece and this piece together. You can see that they're both like terms. They both have an x. So I'm just going to clean up the equation a little bit and put the two x's together. So I have 2x plus 2x. That makes 4x. And I keep everything else the same. And there is step 2 taken care of. Step 3 is another small step. I just want to multiply this 3 inside the bracket. The 3 is a little lonely on the outside, and it wants to come in and sort of join its friends on the inside there. That's the way I think of it in my strange mind. So I'm just going to do this. 3 times x squared makes 3x squared, plus 3 times 4x makes 12x. Make sure you do that middle term. And then 3 times 4, that makes just 12. And that minus 20 is still hanging out on the outside. All right, we're almost done. We have to drop the brackets, this one here and this one here, because we don't need them anymore. There's nothing multiplying this whole piece. And then we're going to add the numbers together. I have a 12 and a negative 20. This negative 20 is a little bit lonely as well. It wants to come in and sort of join the party. So let's help him out. The first thing we're going to do is get rid of those brackets. I'll just write out what I have. 12x plus 12, and the minus 20 is just hanging out on the end. So now I'm just really collecting like terms again. This 12 and 20 can go together. So on my next line, I'll arrive hopefully at my correct final answer, 3x squared plus 12x, and then plus 12 and minus 20 make negative 8. And there we go. We've just put a vertex form quadratic equation into standard form. That's the final answer. Now I can see right away that the y-intercept of this quadratic is negative 8. And from here, it's also a lot easier to jump into factored form to find the zeros or x-intercepts. Okay, now it's your turn. I'll give you a vertex form quadratic equation that looks like this. Y equals 2 times x plus 2 squared minus 15. Let's see, using the steps on the left, if you can put that into standard form. And I'll post a solution when you're ready. So how did you do? We get a final answer of y equals 2x squared plus 8x minus 7. And if you want to review the steps here, go ahead. The first thing we did is we made two identical brackets because it's squared, and then it's a matter of foiling. Foiling is the first terms multiplied together, then the outside terms, then the inside, then last. Here we just put the two x's together, these two, to make 4x. And then we multiplied the two inside the bracket. This guy here came inside. Finally, we dropped the bracket and then put the 8 and negative 15 together to make negative 7. So 2x squared plus 8x minus 7.